kid in the 80s.
We're back, allies, and we've got an update on a previous news topic we talked about. We were talking about Nacelle Company with the RoboForce, and since then, there's been more information come down the pike. I'm going to put the photo on the screen now. They have debuted a look at Hun-Dredd the Conqueror, and I'm going to show this, and I'm also going to show the original Hun-Dredd. You can see beside each other. Not only did they put out a photo, but they actually put out a little video announcing the line.
Okay.
And we got a very quick glance at the end of what looked like Max Steel's or Max Zero. I'm not sure which one they're going to use. Name of his eyes, a very close-up view of his eyes. But this is the image of Hun-Dredd, obviously very different from what we got both with the Glyos line and with the original line. But they were quick to point out the suction cups have remained on the feet.
Yes, but what they also changed is instead of just feet, it's got legs.
Yeah, Hun-Dredd.
You can actually move the character.
Hun-Dredd looks like he's been in the gym for sure.
It looks like he got an upgrade. I like the look that they gave him in the face, where he's got one eye squinting and one eye open.
You know, that's the one part that I'm not sure about. I'm guardedly optimistic about what I've seen. If there's any feedback I would give them, the most iconic part of Hun-Dredd was the fact that his helmet came up and the eyes were these guns. And the fact that this looks like just a solid head where that doesn't happen, I think was a huge mistake. A design mistake. But we're getting one look, one angle of this character. I don't know if he has separate heads that maybe connect to achieve that. I don't know if he keeps the legs or this somehow transforms, because if you look at the shape of these legs, it almost looks like this could open up and connect to form that base like they had before. I'm not sure. It's very early on, and it's hard to tell what they're going to do with it, but I was just interested to see that they put out all this information. We reported it, and then boom, all of a sudden all this extra information dropped. So it looks like they're aiming for either the end of the year or sometime between now and spring of next year. My suspicions are we're going to see a huge debut at Toy Fair in February. That's going to be my guess at this point. They're gearing up for a launch there.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to change the hands out or whatnot. And again, it still answers. I'm always going to have that question: who is this product for? I know it's going to be for you.
Well,
I don't think they're specifically making. It's like, oh, Jim needs RoboForce. We got to hurry up and buy this franchise.
No, I'm certain that they didn't do it for me specifically, but I think that
wouldn't it be great if they did?
Well, yeah, I think that there is certainly a certain group of people, but I would suggest that it's a small group that watched the original one and that that had a love for the original product,
right?
That collected the Glyos, for instance. But again, that was a very short run, and it was a small group of fans, and so I think they're certainly aimed at, but I don't think that that's the goal. I think the goal is to reinvent the line and bring in a whole new group of kids and that sort of thing would be my guess.
And this is going to be attached to what other vehicle? Is it going to be
I believe a cartoon and all that sort of thing is the plan. But in any case, yeah, they had a little video here. It was about a minute and a half that sort of debuted the line and showed you what they're working for. And they actually give a very Whitman sampler version of what we talked about when we did the news, where I explained the whole history of it and why it failed the first time and everything. So they're certainly aware of why it failed and trying to get around it this time, but man, like I said, Transformers is still a huge dominant force in.
You need to come out with something a little bit different if you're going to be a contender.
I will say this: it's not that CBS and Ideal Toys didn't put a lot of effort into it. It's just that they were up against forces that Bob Budiansky, who worked for Marvel and created all of the original names and characters, Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, all that, and really had developed this framework that Hasbro could take and run with. And, when you have a guy who's got a history of writing like that and creating that type of thing and that kind of knowledge, and then he goes and hands it off, and then, now Sunbow comes in and creates a cartoon for. Well,
and the toys were already created too. All they had needed to do was put a new badge on it, new coat of paint.
Yeah,
and out the door they went.
literally, and then all of a sudden, put a name to it, and boom, and that sound, even the sound is iconic. You talk about things that are a part of our national lexicon. The sound of the transformation sound. Everybody knows that sound.
No, yeah.
So it's I'm very, very optimistic about RoboForce. I loved the original line. I'm anxious for the new one and to see a little bit more of it. Like I said, the only thing I wasn't overly keen about was the head sculpt. It looks cool. I'm hoping there's an additional head that comes with it that shows the guns. If that's there, I'm golden. I'm on board for sure. That's I really want that, because that's sort of my favorite. That was Hun-Dredd was the thing that drew me to the line, and it was that look of him with those laser eyes that just really, I love that look on that character.
Well, and you said this was bought by the same company that did the toys that made us, right?
Yeah, so hopefully they recognized an iconic part of the character, and I would think that they would go for that.
I'm going to be rooting for it. I mean, I'd like to see what the cartoon looks like, obviously. I want to find out what the story is and get into the origins and whatnot. But with that being said, I know what happened when DreamWorks got a hold of the Voltron series, and then they put the Voltron series out on Netflix, something that you have no...
Well, I think where we're both at in that comparison is that, much like you don't have an emotional connection to RoboForce, I don't have one to Voltron either. So I think, obviously I would want to see it successful, but, unfortunately...
Well, if they put RoboForce on Netflix, it would be a very, very good home for it, because it would just mean that there's going to be a streaming and anybody can have access to it.
Well, given the deal that Nacelle already has with Netflix, I think that's an absolute given that's where you'll see RoboForce is there. And it makes a lot of sense for Netflix to do that when you consider that they already have the relationship with Mattel with respect to the Masters of the Universe franchise.
Well, it's not just Masters of the Universe, it's also Voltron. I'd love for them to do an updated G.I. Joe cartoon.
What I was going to say, they also have that relationship with Hasbro with regard to the Transformers cartoons that they've put out. So I think that there's... G.I. Joe might be a future project. You never know. So it seems that Netflix seems to be the spot where a lot of this fan service type thing seems to land. And I think that it's probably a very, very, very good bet that that's where RoboForce is headed. And I know that I will be watching Toy Fair very, very closely this year when it hits New York in February, as it always does. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to see one hell of a debut, and I bet it happens on the last day of Toy Fair.
You think?
I think, if anything, that Nacelle would go for the nostalgia of saying, you tried it on us, now this time it's our turn.
Well, I hope it works out for them. It is what it is, but they have a cartoon rolling out, and it's going to be on Netflix. It might not be a smash, but at least it'll get viewers.
Well, given the fact that Nacelle is who they are and what they've done, for our generation and that kind of thing. I mean, certainly they are, I would say, the most successful people with respect to the type of show that we do. So I'm very hopeful that they're successful, because it just gives us more to talk about and more content. But in addition to that, they seem to be fans themselves, and the fact that they picked something like this and said, you know what, I think we can do something to bring this alive. That takes a lot of courage.
It does.
And I have a lot of respect for them for doing that. So I'm extremely hopeful that this is successful for them. And that, not only that, but I want to see it be successful. So,
well, yeah, and it gives you more toys to buy.
I believe it. So there you go, folks. There it is, the update on RoboForce. We hope that you enjoy that, and especially during this blitz that we've been giving you new content during Halloween week. Enjoy your Halloween, and we will see you next time, guys.
As a kid